Quick caveat, this is in no way, shape, or form the end of my Star Citizen content. I'm simply checking out another game that has some interest to me. And that game is Reaper Actual, which is a game that is being developed by former Planetside and Planetside 2 developers. It is very important to make that distinction, as they are two very different games. But this game is billing itself as a large, open-world, persistent MMOFPS, so I am certainly going to be checking it out. Unfortunately, it has come with some baggage, and that is that it has NFT nonsense attached to it, and that is what NFT stuff is, total nonsense. Thankfully, you will not have to interact with that at all if you play the Steam version, so in essence, they are making two games. This video will not be about the low-hanging fruit that is the NFT scam nonsense, but I will address it since it is the elephant in the room. I'm putting a statement on a screen here from John Smedley in an interview on some website where he talks about this being blockchain optional. You can pause and read if you're fully interested in what he has to say. I am also putting on a screen another excerpt from an interview he did on a different website where he talks about this was not his intention to make a blockchain game, it's simply how he got the funding. Again, you could pause and read this on the screen. My personal opinion on anything blockchain or NFT related is that it is such a negative word, a huge red flag, that you could be making the absolute best game in the world with the best features in the world. Something so amazing and so wonderful that nobody has ever done anything like it. It could be a life-changing experience. But the moment that your average gamer sees any mention of blockchain or NFT or Web3 or any of that stuff, they are absolutely out of there. And that is a perfectly reasonable response. And if this game was not being made by former Planetside developers, that would also be my response. But I have, in some way, shape, or form, been interacting with these people since the early 2000s. Even earlier if you count games like Tartarus or Infantry. Hell, I've had Smedley himself suspend me and unsuspend me from Planetside 2, and Matt Higby and I used to get into arguments on Twitch back when I used to stream Planetside 2. Well, a lot of time has passed since then, and I am certainly a little bit more mellow than I was, a little bit anyway. But the point is that these guys usually always put together a good game. They certainly have flaws, like all other games do, but their games have created memories and impressions like no other games have in my life. So, since I can ignore the NFT garbage and play the game completely devoid of that, and because they are making it, I'm willing to give it a shot. But you are not here to listen to me regale about ye old days. You're here to listen to me talk about this game, Reaper Actual. So, Matt Higby and John Smedley did a stream where they were showing off a lot of the content, and I got to ask some questions. I want you to see these answers because these questions I think are very important to any game, not just this type of game. And I'm going to give you my feedback and my opinions on these answers and my concerns in general for the game throughout the video. So let's begin.
So I have a question regarding the character or class system. Are these considered characters with backstories, skins, voices, and their own personalities, or are they like baseline templates we can customize and make our own? For example, let's say I enjoy the character you just displayed and for example, let's say I enjoy the character you just displayed and like his class perk. Can I change everything about him? I asked because I prefer customization and enjoy creating my own online avatar rather than being locked in the preset character. It always looks bizarre in games like Battlefield when clones of clones are running around fighting each other. Okay, cool. So a couple different things. One, they're permutationally unique. So I can't show an example of this in game right now, but imagine that I have a recruitment board for my Reapers, and every day there's like 3 new guys that I could recruit on there. And I can kind of look at these dudes and I can see, okay, this one has brown eyes and a mask, and this one has a chest plate and a holster. They have kind of, unique kind of permutational customizations within them, right? If I only want to get blonde-haired, blue-eyed operators, I won't be able to do that very easily through the recruitment screen, although I can kind of check it and opportunistically be like, oh, there's a blonde-haired, blue-eyed one. Cool, I want that one. But you could also trade these guys player to player. So if you wanted to only search for ones with certain kinds of physical attributes, or I only want ones that have ammunition crate as a primary ability. Maybe ammunition crate is a pretty expensive item to replace, so it's really valuable to have that as a default thing on a commando type, right? Or an SMG plus an ammunition crate is highly synergistic. So I like having that combination in the default toolkit of Reapers. So when I'm going to recruit Reapers, I'll like check these various boxes for what exactly I want in there, and then I'll be able to sort of look through and figure out the ones that you want. So they're kind of permutationally unique, but then the way you customize them afterwards is totally up to you. So you can drop gear into these guys and build them out however you want. If you only wanted to hunt them down for perks, I only want to get a bunch of different logistical perks or security-based perks. That would be another kind of parameter that you would be able to sort and filter them on. But there's not either the ability to change the eye color, right? Like we're not doing that kind of customization where you're going through and you're, making the nose be wider or anything like that. That's something that's sort of baked into the character. And they do have names and bios and all that stuff that kind of get created along with them when they get made. And you're also not like significantly changing like what that character is, right? So it's more kind of like finding the characters that have the parameters that you want in them and then kind of progressing them and customizing them further.
So this one is a big concern of mine, and it is still a concern of mine. I am not a fan of hero shooters. I think that the hero shooter train is largely on the way out of the station. I think that Battlefield 6 has proven this by going away from their operators earlier this year and shifting more towards the classic class-based system. You can still see a lot of the remnants of the character system in Battlefield 6. Like, for example, they're not very customizable or anything like that, but they did make the change because I think they realized that players, they don't really like that anymore, and I know I don't. What I would like to have seen for Reaper Actual is for them to not have this operator stuff, but allow me to make my own soldier, my own avatar within the world, my own character. I feel a stronger connection to my own character that I've created than some Reaper or operator or hero in another game. It's one of the big reasons why it's hard for me to get into any game that has a character-based system, no matter how good it is, but that's just me personally. I think that there is a wealth of customization options that can also be monetized to help support the product. I'm not saying buying something stupid like clown masks or anything like that. I think those are actually very bad for a game and they hurt the integrity of the product. But we have a massive collection of uniforms and equipment since the Cold War up until now. I could simply imagine paying money to mix and match different clothing and uniform from different eras to make a truly unique soldier. Heck, who wouldn't want to look like one of the mercenaries from Metal Gear Solid 2 or maybe one of the Hecu Marines from Half-Life 1? Use your imagination. It's out there. It doesn't always have to be different shades of multicam. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of this hero stuff, unfortunately.
Okay, so second question was, will there be a respawn mechanic in this game? You mentioned Frontline, and in my experience, Frontline could not form without some way to sustain it and establish in the first place. You also mentioned Metro and how you changed it from insertion to extraction. So I'd hazard a guess that this was or is still being considered. Yeah, so yes, there is a respawn mechanic. Not only is there when I die, I come back to my base and I can go immediately back into that same open world that I was just in. So if I want to get revenge on who killed me, if I got killed by an NPC, far away from players, my corpse is probably still going to be hanging out there for a little while. So I can go back and do a corpse run to be able to get my gear back. If players killed me, I'm able to get the posse together and go try to take those guys out. Yeah, so there's definitely ways to get back into not just back into the world, but back into this exact same persistent world that I had just gotten knocked out of, right? Some of the squad mechanics that we're talking about doing would be sort of familiar to you as well, like the ability to have a perk that allows you to spawn on your squad member. If you're operating near one of these docks or helipads, you would be able to insert yourself back into the game world at that specific helipad. If you're operating around where your base is, you'd be able to do that as well. But one thing that we do want to have is we want to have the map space actually really matter. So right now I have a base that's sort of here, I mentioned. It's sort of up here north of the airport, right? But I might also want to have a base up here on this northern island, just because if I am engaged in combat over here and I do die, I'm going to want to be able to like get back to this location without having to spawn in proximity to this base, but instead in proximity to this base. So like having several different bases that are strategically placed around the game world is important.
So spawn points are a pretty big topic for me. I think they're very important in any game, and I would expect Planetside developers to understand the importance of respawn mechanics, well done respawn mechanics. I am mostly satisfied with this answer. I would have to get my hands on it to experience it myself to really fully understand. But in general, what it sounds like is they are pushing for some form of front line to form and stabilize, which is, you might think, unique for a looter shooter, if that's kind of what it is. Because this game is sort of a hybrid between like a Tarkov, an ABI, and a Battlefield. It really is its own thing in a lot of ways. But in general, I'm pretty happy about the fact that there are respawn mechanics that are being thought about to begin with. I think that's fantastic, and these are the kind of things that you should be thinking about when you start making a game, not 12 plus years into the development of the game. So very good job from this development team.
You mentioned combined arms, which is a phrase I really like. How do you define combined arms in Reaper Actual compared to how it's defined in other games? Not every developer defines combined arms the same way, and in my experience, most get it wrong. Present company excluded. Appreciate that. I mean, for us, it means that we have, infantry and air vehicles and ground vehicles basically, fully operational and able to be played simultaneously in the persistent world. We're going to be taking that in phases. So right now we don't have that. You can't just hop into a vehicle and drive it. We're very close to having, fully driven crewed ground vehicles in. We have them disabled right now just because of performance and mostly like network replication reasons. But we're getting that stuff solved with the full intention of having crewed vehicles. Not only that, but also the ecosystem of anti-vehicle weapons and anti-vehicle tools that you would need in a world where players have kind of ubiquitous access to crewed vehicles. So that's going on. The first phase for like air vehicles and sea vehicles is going to be to use them more in this sort of point-to-point mode, like I was describing. So if I have a helicopter on the helipad at my bunker base, I can use that bunker base. I'll go to Ilaria, actually. I should be showing the game world off instead of just like talking while staring at a blank wall here. I apologize. Very inconsiderate streamer. Yeah, so right now those things will be point-to-point deployment mechanisms. So you could go from your Zodiac to docks within 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers of your base. And there should be a handful of different docks. I think the game world is not coming back. Let's see. So that, that's just a different deployment mechanism. Again, point to point. So you're not actually driving that boat around. But then the next phase of it would be, fully crewed air and sea vehicles, which is still on our roadmap to do, something that we want to do. It obviously won't be here for Foundation in the next couple weeks, but it is something that we're intending to get in before launch.
I like this answer. Combined arms is very important, and it's something that developers use quite a lot. But combined arms is a very difficult, and I would even say nuanced system to put in a game correctly. Simply having a tank and a soldier together doesn't make combined arms. There's a lot more that goes into it. The concerns I would have over how Reaper Actual does combined arms really comes down to a few things. The first is exit and entry animations. This might sound a little weird to you, it's like, well, why would we need those? But having entry and exit animations is important because it gives the infantry soldier who ambushes a vehicle a chance to do damage without being in fear of the guy in the vehicle just coming out and shooting you. And this is why that's important. You might say, oh, well, if you're just good, shoot him, get good, scrub. No, listen. Imagine this. You're playing Battlefield, and you come up on like a Jeep or something. You have your rocket launcher out. Your rocket launcher does like nothing to infantry. You shoot the rocket launcher, you hit the vehicle. The guy instantly jumps out because you've been revealed, and you are mid-reload of your rocket launcher. Yeah, sure, you might be able to swap to your weapon, but unless this guy is incredibly stupid, your ambush that you worked for means nothing. He's just going to hop out, instantly gun you down because his weapon's going to already be out, and then he's going to get back in his vehicle. That is why entry and exit animations are very important. The other thing that's important are these vehicles, they have to be multi-crew. They have to have a crew. You cannot do the crap. Sorry, I know some guys in Planetside 2 like this, but I'm going to say it. You can't do this crap where the player becomes the tank. And the reason why you cannot do that is because so long as one player can become a vehicle, that is not a force multiplier. So in the case of the tank, it has to be multi-crew, driver, gunner, commander. You can then make this incredibly powerful. It can do a lot of damage. You can absolutely do that. But in general, all multi-crew must be driver and gunner at the very least. That even applies to aircrafts like attack helicopters or something like that. The Liberator was a good example of that in Planetside 2. If you go back to Planetside 1, some of the most weak vehicles in the game were the single-seat vehicles. Yeah, they still existed, but they weren't very good. Like the Lightning wasn't very good. The Mosquito wasn't very good. Heck, the Reaver actually could not rocket spam down a soldier that was wearing reinforced armor by himself in a reasonable time frame. That soldier could actually pull out a anti-aircraft weapon and drive him off, or in some cases kill them. They were somewhat equal, which is very unique for game design. But just because something is a vehicle does not mean it needs to be that powerful, at least in my opinion. There is room for single-seat vehicles, but their power must be carefully measured. So we'll just have to wait and see how this plays out, but I do really hope to see some true combined arms in a game where I'm very skeptical about combined arms fitting into it, but that's only because I know so little so far.
Talk a bit about long-term player motivators. In PS, we joined a faction and wanted that faction to win. That was always priority number one. Individual player progression happened passively while we were fighting a larger fight. Yep. Sounds like in RA, we're freelance operators and our only motivator is individual progression for the sake of progression's sake. I'm guessing NPC factions have rewards, but they're surely just a temporary incentive, which is fine. I'm just sniffing for any bit of immersion I can find. Sure. Couple things. I'll just stop trying to go out into the game world for a little bit and I'll just do this talk from the base. So faction progression is definitely a thing. So as you earn reputation with the factions, first of all, each faction has sort of a unique gameplay style. They have unique tactics. Some of them might roll with larger squad sizes than others. Some of them might have different reinforcement mechanisms. They have their own styles, effectively. That includes arsenals they have access to, both in terms of weapons and vehicles, right? So progression with a faction. Let's say this season, Rogue Command, which is sort of our Marine Air Cav, there's sort of an AWOL Marine Air Cav detachment, right, that is operating here. Let's say that they're spawning and reinforcing using Black Hawk helicopters. And this does a couple interesting things. It means that Black Hawk helicopters in the meta right now are pretty common. It's easy to get access to them. It's easy to get access to helicopter parts. The faucet is basically like turned wide open for Black Hawk helicopters in the meta today. By doing missions for them, I could get like some deployment mechanisms that utilize Black Hawk helicopters, but I could also unlock different tiers on this trader that eventually give me access to a Black Hawk helicopter blueprint, for example. And that blueprint is something that I permanently have access to now to be able to create a Black Hawk helicopter on demand. So as long as I have the parts for it, I can make it, right? So imagine shifting now to a couple seasons forward, and now Rogue Command might not even be active in Morova this season. But let's say they're active, but they're using Humvees for reinforcements this season instead of Black Hawk helicopters for reinforcements this season. So Black Hawks have become less common in the meta. Players still have them if they extracted and put them on a helipad in their base. Players who 2 seasons ago earned the blueprint for Black Hawk helicopters can kind of manufacture them if they have a base that's set up to do that. This creates a kind of player trade opportunity where you have sort of asymmetrical access to this thing that's not easy to acquire in the game meta anymore, but you can sort of craft those and sell those. So that's one long-term motivator, is I want to acquire all the different tools that allow me to kind of create things and use things in the meta when they're out of meta. And that's sort of done through engagement with the factions season to season. So this season, each season I would just sort of look and see like, oh, cool, they have Black Hawk helicopters on max reputation. It's going to take me 50 hours to get max reputation with them this season, but I'm going to target that because that's something I really want to get access to. Other factions might have, silenced SMGs or medical kits or whatever, and those are also like really valuable to be able to get blueprints to and craft over time. So that's part of it. The way that you configure your base would be part of it. As you kind of like hinted on those being personal motivations, right? The season to season stock that these factions get access to is probably going to be influenced by how successful they are in achieving their mission goals season to season. So this season, Obsidian Syndicate might have a needs-based goal to get, whatever, 10 million electronic components and 50 million barrels of oil or something like that. And if they get those goals, then the next season, those would be rewards that you can get in their faction kind of progression, if that makes sense. It might even turn them on for this season. If I get the 10,000 electronic components, maybe then you could buy, a GPS tool or something like that directly from the merchant. So that's kind of a slightly more metagamey thing. But the intention is definitely not to join these factions. It's more to operate with the factions, and then through the factions and through doing missions for the factions, you're kind of learning about the world and gaining your own kind of personal goals. The place that I think like really exceeds individual motivation is when you start getting into outfit gameplay, and like the more coordinated outfits are our word for guilds, right? Like those of you guys who play Planetside 2, that's what we called guilds in Planetside. That's what we're calling them here as well. So you'll have outfits, and outfits can also have bases. Their outfit bases can be customized to make Black Hawk helicopters, for example, which requires a lot of different crafting expertise and materials and components and economic stuff to basically be able to create a little operation to be able to make those. And that could be something that your outfit decides they want to do because they're through playing missions and through seeing the story of what these NPCs are talking about, they might be saying, hey, you know what, Black Hawk helicopters are going to be missing out of the meta next season, or Stinger missiles are going to be missing. So it's going to be way better for us if we have access to lots of helicopters. So let's configure our base to be able to do Black Hawk helicopters, because next season that's going to give us a asymmetrical advantage over a rival outfit that we like to mess around with in the game. I think that's more where we want to have the long-term sort of exceeding the boundaries of individual intrinsic motivation into something that I'm doing for a group. Isn't for these NPC groups, it's for your actual cohort of players that you're playing together with, your outfit, right?
This is a very good question, and it's not one that I asked, and it also has a very good answer. The first thing that I want to critique right off the bat is I don't like the idea that it's seasons. I don't like that word. There are other words that they could use. Seasons might be a placeholder word, maybe not. This game is already fighting an uphill battle with the NFT crap that people are going to latch onto. But if you start throwing around things like battle passes and seasons, the words are strong. They're very powerful, and I don't think that's a great idea. Maybe changing it to conflicts or wars or contention, something else. Just I would not call these seasons personally, but the way they sound is they sound more like wars from Foxhole or even wars from World War II Online, where they end and there's like a downtime and then another war begins with the ramifications of the previous war carrying over to a degree. I do like that. So this is something that I would like to see them expand upon more. I also want the factions to matter. In games like Dune, the new Dune game that came out, the factions don't matter. That game's a total mess, and it does factions all wrong. This game, a big selling point for me is going to be, well, how do you do the factions? They have a ton of them, which is fine. I'm a big believer in the 3-faction system, but I think this kind of game probably needs more for what they're going for. Anyway, I want the factions to matter. I want players to align with a faction, and there's a reason to stay with it. That's good for forming structure in the game. That's good for solo players, not just organization or outfit players, they call them in this game. I'm glad you're using the word outfits. That's good for everybody. You don't want a situation where people are joining a faction and the big outfit on that faction just slays them and takes what they want anyway. You might think that adds good gameplay. I don't think so. I think people need to know who their friend is and who their foe is, even if they don't join an outfit, because you cannot force people to join an outfit. And that's coming from me, a very big outfit leader. You can't force them to join. You have to consider how well your solo player experience is. Very important. That's where Planetside 2 and Planetside 1 failed. I'm telling you that right now. So I would like to see that expanded upon. I also like this idea that the factions you align with have some type of technology to them. It's almost like a research bonus from Foxhole, where you would research something as a faction and you'd get that research. It was a mess in Foxhole because idiots made the decisions, and as we all know, giving idiots the right to vote is never a good idea. So these idiots would vote for stupid stuff and memes. And you would get stupid vehicles and stupid researches and memes, and it was awful, and it just ruined everything, and it made everybody hate each other. You don't want that kind of system. So this here, right here, is like, okay, well, he mentioned the Blackhawks, for example. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It allows me as an outfit to almost build a doctrine or a plan for what I'm going to do. Maybe my outfit wants to be focusing on air insertion, so we're going to go for the Blackhawk research, and we're going to construct Blackhawks. Or maybe my outfit wants to go for tanks. You get the point here. It allows us to build a doctrine and an outfit philosophy, or even an SOP based on this research. So this is something to keep an eye on, because this is what you don't have in games like Tarkov and ABI and all that. Because games like Tarkov and games like ABI, they have like a wipe system that keeps people coming back. Same with Rust, it has like a wipe system that keeps people coming back. For me, I'm not big on the wipe, but I see the importance of it for gamers as a whole. Foxhole had a wipe. The new war, like a fresh war in Foxhole, was always the greatest experience. A fresh war in World War II Online, which was basically also a wipe. Great experience. If this game can leverage that without making everything that you do feel pointless or trivial because there's another war starting, I think that would be one of the positives that this game has and can do. The other challenge that they're going to have is, well, how do you keep the losing faction or the losing players in that war to keep fighting? That's a big problem that Foxhole has. That's a big problem that World War II Online had. I got to think about that one some more. My initial, boilerplate suggestion would be you add bonuses to the losing faction. Maybe they get more XP, or they get some handouts or something, just to kind of keep them playing and say, okay, well, we can at least make this a Pyrrhic victory for our enemies, and we can get them back next war. Something like that to promote more, bigger picture thinking. But again, this is going to require a lot more thought for me to give you a better answer than that. Now, before I wrap this up, I want to talk about the game world here. There's no commentary here, but he's showing off the game world and the spawn points. I am very impressed by the size of this world. This is, I would say, probably bigger than Indar on Planetside 2. I think this looks bigger than anything, at least that I remember from Planetside 2. So you could fit a lot of players on this. I am not happy that their starting player count is only 200. That is one of the things I'm not thrilled about. That's more than most games now. Hell, that's more than Battlefield, and I think it's bigger than games like Squad and Hell Let Loose and a couple of other Unreal 4 and Unreal 5 games out there. But I think that scale is such an important thing that I would like to see them try and get more out of it. I would really, really like them to try and get more. 400 maybe, because 200, I was playing 200-man servers back in Tribes 2 back in the day. I was playing 128-man servers back in Tribes 1 back in 98. I think that Planetside 1 had 340-something, 400, I don't remember, but it was like in the upper 300s, I believe, for Planetside 1, which was big back then. But the point is, in 2025 and beyond, shouldn't we be asking more from games? Like, shouldn't they be bigger? Scale is so important. I remember the tagline for Planetside 2 was size matters. And size does matter. Even if your wife tells you it doesn't, it does. Because whenever you have scale in a game, that's something that nobody is doing. And I think scale is so important. It's so important that it can help people overlook some of the bad things in a game. Scale helped me overlook a lot of the bad stuff in Planetside 1 and Planetside 2, and World War II Online, and Foxhole, and Guild Wars 2. The list goes on. Scale is that important and that powerful that it helps you look past a lot of the bad stuff. And I would say that Reaper Actual is going to have a lot of bad stuff that it's going to have to overcome. We talked about it, NFTs, right? Looter shooter, right? Hero shooter, right? I think those are all, they're not really my thing. But the scale and the concept is appealing to me because there's other things attached to it that other games just are not doing right now. So if I would say this, looking at this map and all this big, beautiful world that they've built, let's try and bring it up higher than 200. But if that's not possible, it's not possible. But this is what you guys come here for, is my honest opinions on things. Speaking of honest opinions, let me give you my conclusion here and sum it all up. I am highly skeptical yet cautiously optimistic of this game. I am not a believer in crypto nonsense or NFT nonsense, and in one look at that Discord, you will see nothing but scammers and other people on there trying to rip people off immediately. That is a bad look for this game. People are going to go there, and they are going to see this and go, I don't know, there's some guy here trying to shill me his coin. There's another guy here trying to offer his services to work on the product. It's a mess. That Discord is more like a job fair than something to discuss the game. As a matter of fact, I only went there. I referred everybody over there to show interest and to say, hey, listen, we want to play your game. We're not involved in this crypto crap. We don't want this crypto crap. But that crypto crap is a bad look for the game. And it's going to be very hard for people to overcome. That Discord's a mess. And that Discord is very off-putting to any potential game that you have over there. Which is why I think that these guys who are very capable of making an excellent game need to really help their game stand out with good design, good decisions, and unique features that other games don't have. It can follow some trends, right? Every game follows trends. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think sometimes you need to look at where the trends are going versus where they were. And what I mean by that is I think games that were being developed 4 or 5 years ago when hero shooters were all the rage and looter shooters were wild and everybody wanted the next big looter shooter, they started development so many years ago. Well, things have changed and people are like, ugh, God, another looter shooter. Ugh, God, another XY, another Tarkov, another hero shooter. I mean, look at Marathon. Marathon got crushed for good reason. And now we have Battlefield 6 coming out. And Battlefield 6 is going, whoa, this crazy ain't so popular anymore. And people really hated 2042. So maybe we shouldn't double down on the 2042 formula. And we should maybe look at what made our previous games a bit more popular. And that game's got its own issues. But you see the point. People are kind of moving away from that. And I would like to see Reaper Actual do a little bit of the same thing. Keep its identity, keep the dream, keep the vision, of course. But adapt to the current market trends and see, put your finger in the wind and see which way it's blowing. I can tell you right now what nobody's doing, not even Battlefield. Nobody is doing an accessible, massively multiplayer, online first-person shooter with an emphasis on factions and combined arms. And the fact that people here came out of the woodwork to check this game out because of Matt Higby, John Smedley, Tramell Isaac, and everybody else from the Planetside 2 and Planetside 1 team working on it, I think that should tell you how hungry people are for something like that. And because of that, that's why I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to overlook everything, and I'm going to give it a chance. Am I going to stay? I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you for watching.